Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Brand Identity Design Podcast. And my name is Jason. I'm your host. This is my 76th episode, and this is a business podcast. And I'm interviewing the famous Philip VanDusen, who you see next to me on this virtual stage, which we have been broadcasting on LinkedIn. I'm also simulcasting directly on Clubhouse, and for a change, I'm also simulcasting on Twitter, just to see, just to experiment things and see how it goes. So I want to thank all the listeners who are actually tuning us live at this moment of time. Shout out to Frankie, whom you see down in the audience. I'm going to be interviewing him on the 21st of December. Thank you for the love and support, Frankie. And today is a very interesting topic which we are going to be discussing about. We would be discussing about advertainment and the future of content marketing with Philip. Philip will speak on how social media has been changing rapidly with the explosion of short form entertainment, and content on social media will start influencing the type of marketing and advertisement campaigns run by companies. Now, brands will now have to figure out a way to be informative, authentic, engaging, motivating, and most of all, entertaining in all about 60 seconds or less to sell their products and services on social media. Now, we're going to deep dive into this conversation and get Philip's insight, because I actually stumbled upon a content which Philip posted a few weeks back, and he was speaking on the same thing. And I got very fascinated with this term called advertainment. It's a new word. You can't really find anything on Google at this moment of time. So hopefully this content would be beneficial to a lot of people who are listening to this conversation, either on Spotify, Apple, Google, or even live, for a matter of fact. So let me give you a heads up on who Philip is. So Philip VanDusen is the owner of Verhal Brand Design, a brand strategy, design, and a marketing agency based in New Jersey, USA. And 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 Philip helps entrepreneurs and even small to medium sized businesses build powerful and profitable businesses. As a thought leader, Philip shares his expertise in marketing, design, entrepreneurship on his YouTube channel. And guess this, guys, 255,000 subscribers currently following Philip on YouTube. And he also has a top branding newsletter, industry newsletter called Brand Muse. Philip also hosts Brand Design Master podcast. I follow it. I would highly recommend you to also follow this podcast, Brand Design Masters podcast. I should have all the links updated once I have the show uploaded, guys, just in case if you're struggling with a pen or paper. So he has a lot of accomplished guests, a lot of resources which can help you to bulletproof your business and your personal brand. Not only that, Philip has served as a VP of design for PepsiCo, as a VP of design at Old Navy, and he's also been an executive creative director at the iconic branding firm called Landor Associates, which I'm sure many of us has heard. Some of his past clients are Procter and Gamble, Kraft Food, Coca-Cola, Merck, PetSmart, Safeway, Chevron, Levi's, Microsoft, Campbell, Johnson & Johnson, among many, many others. So we have a very qualified professional with us who is going to be discussing further this conversation. So I want to welcome Philip officially to the Brand Identity Design Podcast. Drum roll.
Hey, Jason, thanks for that amazing introduction and drum roll. Appreciate that.
You're welcome, Philip. Nice to have you. Let's actually deep dive into this conversation. Now, before I usually get into the business side of things or the topic, I want to understand the person. I want our audience to also understand, get a gist of who you are and how has things been, what has influenced you to become the person you have become. So, could you take us back through time? Maybe tell us a bit about your childhood. How did you discover your love for design? And you have worked in a lot of big, gigantic corporations. So, I wanted to also hear what were some of your biggest learning from these roles?
Sure. Well, thanks, Jason, for having me. I really appreciate it. And welcome everyone who's listening on all the multitude of platforms we're simulcasting on, which is really amazing. Good job for Jason on that technology. I don't want to go too far back, but I mean, I was always a creative kid. I was always painting, drawing. I've always played music, so playing guitar, singing. I've considered myself to be a multi-creative. I actually acted also a lot in my youth. And so creativity has always been part of my DNA from the very beginning. And I think that's really been the thread that has been the consistent thread through my entire career, my love of creativity, my love of design, aesthetics, and the emotions that those things kind of bring up in you as a creator, and also as, a viewer or someone who's experiencing that sort of creativity. And so, came up as a creative kid, and then I actually studied painting in school. I have my master's degree in painting, and I did that in order to teach. I taught for a short period of time at university level, teaching painting and drawing. And then that career kind of puttered out. It was very, very difficult to find a role at that time that I was doing that. And I started my own T-shirt company, and that led me into the apparel industry, where I came up through a number of different companies, kind of culminating as a VP of Old Navy, as you mentioned. And then I moved over to the agency side and did a lot of branding and brand strategy. A lot of CPG companies, entertainment companies, huge range of industries and categories. And then jump back over to the client side with PepsiCo for a period of time. And then I kind of met a wall where I decided I had kind of done the Fortune 100 and decided to go off on my own. So about 6 years ago, I started my own consultancy. And that's when I really dove into content marketing. So that that's also when content marketing really started to pick up steam. So that was, an advantageous, I think, alignment in time. You did mention, what have I learned from my corporate roles? And I think one of the things that I've learned is that creativity is really translatable, meaning that you can have creativity that's art. You can have creativity that's design. There's amazing amounts of creativity and innovation in product design and technology, in writing, in what we wear and apparel, and all of those things. The creativity runs through all of those things, and also can be translated to so many different levels and so many different areas of interest. And for me, that was important because my career has definitely not been linear. As I mentioned, I started in education, I went into the fashion industry, then I went over to the agency side, then I went into CPG companies. And it was not, I didn't map it out that way. I took advantage of opportunities that came my way as I went through my career, and they taught me and led me into new and different places. And I think that that's one of the biggest learnings I have about careers in general and my corporate roles, is that careers are not necessarily always linear, and you really just have to have your eyes open and be ready for opportunities when they present themselves. And I guess the other real big learning for me as a creative was what really unlocked my career was moving from a T-shaped skill set to a V-shaped skill set. And what I mean by that is a T-shaped skill set is being great in design or being great in one thing, and very, very shallow in just about everything else. And so when I moved into management, I had to start learning how to, manage massive budgets and do, human resources sorts of things, kind of performance reviews and hirings and firings and all the emotional intelligence and communication skills that you have to learn as a manager. And so that's what really unlocked my career, is when I went from being a solo creator, a designer, into being more of a kind of a fully equipped creative professional. And so that's and then a final learning and then I'll stop talking, is that networking really is everything, and that people move around. And if there's one thing that I wish I knew earlier in my career, is that no one stays in their job forever. And the more you network with people in your discipline, outside of your discipline, and then stay in touch with them, that's what's going to get you your next job. And you're not going to get it through applying online with a resume.
Absolutely. These are some solid learnings, Philip, which you have acquired working at these corporate roles. So keep networking, because as you correctly said, and I totally agree with you, because people don't stay in the same position or have the same jobs for a really long time. They can switch. So having a group of network of people whom you can seek out, explore, learn from, it's always nice. I like what you said about creativity is translatable, right? I think that's what you said, right? Translatable.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cool. And the T-shaped skill set. So pretty amazing, Philip. I love what you shared, and let's actually, deep dive into this conversation further, because I see 21 people listening to us live on LinkedIn. I have another 3 to 4 individuals on Clubhouse. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody on Twitter yet because it's fairly new, but let's actually give people what they want. So could you tell us, what is this buzzword called advertainment, and why it is different from traditional advertising or marketing?
Sure. Well, the short form video which you saw, which I had published on LinkedIn, where I mentioned the word advertainment, I was talking about this very topic, and to a certain extent, I thought, or I believe, I've coined the term. I mean, I did a Google search on it to see if anyone else was using it, and like you, I came up with very little. But so I kind of coined that for my short form video. And what I meant by advertainment is that short form content, video, audio, has been taking over social media in a lot of different ways, and a lot of different social platforms have been radically changing their formats to accommodate short form content, even to the extent Instagram for a period of time were taking people's visual photography content and turning them into reels and publishing them as reels. And this was to the great surprise of people who were posting static visual content. They were suddenly forced into, doing reels. And so this has all been brought about by TikTok, obviously, right? So TikTok massively exploded, has 1 billion users around the world, and is gathering a lot of attention. And so Instagram is chasing that. YouTube is chasing that with YouTube Shorts. And short form video is one of those things that just can't be ignored. And so, but what I was talking about in my short, what an advertainment was, that what that's done, that introduction of short form video on social media. Now, this is a very important kind of point, is that we've had traditional advertising in terms of, 1 minute spots on radio and 1 minute commercials and 30-minute commercials on television and broadcast media. That's been, going on for 100 years, or how long TV and radio has been around. And so we've always advertised that way. But what the really different aspect of this is that brands are now having to confront or face the idea of marketing on social media, which is not a broadcast media. It's a sharing economy. And so this is, I like to call it call it social commerce, which is, it's business, but it's happening on a social platform. And so this changes a whole lot of things in the landscape, right? Number one, short form video has massively changed the format or the attention span of viewers. And so everyone's, attention spans are getting shorter. People are flipping, with their thumbs every 15 seconds, and they want to be entertained. This stream of entertainment media is so fast and so constant that it's changed the expectations of social media consumers to move towards being entertained. And the challenge that this brings to the table for businesses is that people can smell a sales pitch a mile away. If anything, the internet has done for us is it's made us all really, really sales pitch conscious, and being the advertising product, essentially. And all brands need to advertise. So brands have moved into the content creation sphere. They're creating content. There's learning how to tell stories. But with the introduction of short form, there are some new challenges. They're having to be entertaining. They're having to incorporate their brand message in an authentic and non-salesy kind of way. And so that has brought on the explosion of influencer marketing, because brands are nesting their brand in the authenticity of someone else, within the authenticity of an influencer. And that is one of the easiest ways for brands to get into the social commerce market, is to make deals and sponsorships with influencers, so those influencers can promote their products for them and leverage the credibility and the brand love that their audiences have for them, so that can influence the brand's reputation in a really positive way. And so I like to say you have to, I kind of came up with an acronym yesterday, which is called SEE, which means you have to storytell, you have to entertain, and then you also have to engage, because social is, excuse me, social is social, meaning that this isn't one-way broadcast advertising. This is an engaging, interactive, two-way conversations. So brands are no longer just like throwing out a 60-minute Super Bowl ad. They are having to actually listen to and engage with the people who are consuming their brand message. And I think that that's another one of those big paradigm shifts that's happening as social commerce is becoming more mature.
Could you help me with that acronym again, Philip? You said SEE?
SEEs: storytelling, entertainment, and engagement.
Awesome. I love what you shared, and I like the fact that how brands should pivot to that direction, because yes, nowadays we are so accustomed to sales pitches and we kind of know where things are heading. So even when people are trying to even send you a DM, let's say on LinkedIn or any other platform, you directly know that they're trying to pitch something to you. So we have this wall, I call it as like a wall restricting, and you don't want to engage with such individuals who does not bring any value, or they just want to sell something to you without trying to get to know you. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Now with influencer marketing, with what you just highlighted, that very many brands pivoted to influencer marketing because they wanted to personalize things. They wanted to make it seem more organic. But I think that also pushed, that I don't think that really worked out, right? Because many influencers were willing to just say anything about a brand as long as they were getting paid. And I think that's what is making it ineffective. Am I right?
I would disagree. I think that influencer marketing, there is bad influencer marketing.
Mm-hmm.
There are obvious pitches or brand influencer alignment that is essentially not aligned, meaning there are influencers who are hawking products or endorsing things that aren't in line with their own personal brand story or don't seem to be aligned with their lifestyle. And those sorts of things, I think, stand out to us very strongly as feeling like friction. They don't feel right, and they make us feel like we're being, sold or kind of manipulated. And so where influencer marketing really shines is where when you have an influencer who is actually using the product or has actually in their life used this product for a period of time before ever developing that relationship. And so they can genuinely represent their brand affinity for the brand to their audience, which they've built. But when we don't have that kind of true influencer brand alignment, that's when it feels bad, right? It feels yucky. But I think that the explosion and the amount of money, advertising money that brands are putting behind and into influencer marketing now, I mean, I've heard something like it's a third of advertising spend with some companies, which is a massive, massive shift. Mm-hmm. And so I think that that's something that we have to pay attention to. But that's only kind of one half of it, right? One half is how you get other people to represent your brand for you. And then the other half is that how do we as brands develop content for ourselves, which is authentic and doesn't feel salesy and has a level of story and entertainment and engagement, et cetera. So there's kind of two pieces of advertainment or social commerce that have to be built.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you educating me and giving me that perspective too, Philip. Let's actually go a bit further about advertainment. Could you who is advertainment really for? And what kind of audience and what kind of industry do you think this would apply to?
I think that just like advertising, social media content is industry agnostic, just about every single industry. I think B2C, so B2C is going to be easier than B2B, but it doesn't mean that B2B can't use it as well. But I don't think that there's a particular industry or a particular audience that any piece of content is specifically, well, there are pieces of content which are designed to be completely relevant to a particular market, right? So short form content on the whole trends younger in terms of its audience. That's pushed, very heavily by TikTok, but in general, short form video and short form audio, they have done some studies and they've come up with the fact that the people who consume that sort of content are on the younger age spectrum. And so brands have to figure out how to target effectively. Number one, brands always have to figure out, what platform they're going to be on. What platform is their audience or their customer target on, and what platform is appropriate for their brand, their message, and what they're bringing to market. There's kind of two things that are influencing what people are seeing. One is their own behavior. So that the algorithms read dwell time, they read what videos we watch, what videos we scroll through. And so the algorithms are learning our behaviors and they will affect what we end up seeing. And brands can't control that. But they can control what platform they're on, and they can control what kind of content they're putting out there. One of the real benefits of this short form content and advertainment in particular is that it's easier to produce, meaning that it's a shorter time commitment. It doesn't take as much time to develop or edit or put out a piece of short form content. It's easier to test ideas. It's easier to iterate and learn. One of the other really important things for it is, when people started doing advertising on Twitter, the lifespan of a tweet, meaning it is like 15 minutes. So a tweet after 15 minutes has about a 5% chance of ever being seen by anybody. It's a very immediate platform. And short form video and advertainment is also very immediate sort of media, meaning that short form people flip through it, they see it very quickly, and they move on. It's snackable, what I like to call snackable content. And that's a good news for brands in one way, because people are going to see your short form content, they're going to get a brand impression, right? And then they're going to move on. And so it's great because a brand has to get anywhere from 6 to 8 impressions before a customer will ever even consider buying from you. So it gives you a chance to have a higher and quicker number of impressions, brand impressions, so people can get to know who your brand is. But then it also means that you're not dwelling in front of this audience for such a long period of time that piece of content carries a tremendous amount of weight. And so to a certain extent, the lightweightness of short form content is an advantage to brands because they can dip in and out of it very quickly, and they don't have to feel that they're having to invest too much in one particular piece of media. They can just do little snippets.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, Philip. That really makes perfect sense. So it's not really restricted. I think any businesses can really make an attempt to go with advertainment. Create something engaging, which is snackable. Okay, a snackable, consumable type of content, easier. Easier to produce. Okay, easier to test. Okay, now imagine many brands would have higher budgets, and do you think if they were to produce something which is short form but budget, big production budgets, and if they make it like the quality of it really cool, okay, do you think it would be ineffective in comparison to regular advertainment? Let's say something which you would create, for a matter of fact. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that the higher the budget, the more people will realize that they're being sold to. And that's the more polished it is, the more people are suspect of it. And this is something that content producers have known for a long time, which is that people love to see how things, the truth. They want to see the man behind the curtain.
Yes.
They want to see what is going on. What does your space actually look like? They don't want to see the polished laptop lifestyle content producer. They want to see a real life of someone that they can identify with. Maybe someone who's just a step or two above them in terms of the development of their career or the development of their knowledge, and so they can aspire to, but not be so intimidated by that person that they can't feel like it's attainable. And that also goes with brands. So as soon as a brand's piece of content is very polished and very highly produced, people realize that their brain says, I'm watching an ad. And so when brands are really authentic and raw and show what's behind the scenes, and that goes for influencers as well, that's where you start to really be able to break through. And that's where you start to be able to build a level of trust with the people who are watching and consuming what it is that you're putting out. And that level of trust, there's a kind of double-edged sword for this. The bigger the company, the more, and I worked for, when in and for some of the biggest companies in the world, the bigger the company, the more matrixed and cumbersome it is to do anything, right?
Yeah, the decision-making process is way too long.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they are very uncomfortable in putting out anything that isn't completely polished. So this is actually one of those places where small to medium-sized businesses can really have an advantage over large corporations, is in short form content, because they can be more authentic, because they don't have to jump through so many hoops and have, such a long approval chain for a piece of content before it hits the media. And we understand why that is, right? I mean, big brands have a hell of a lot to lose, right? You can sink the reputation of a brand with a single piece of content. And so they justifiably freak out whenever there's the idea of an intern developing a tweet who's going to put it out into the world without it getting approved by a couple C-suite level people. But that's where smaller companies can really shine, is that they don't have to go through that sort of thing, and they can be authentic, and they can show behind the scenes, and they can develop a deeper relationship quicker with their customer target. And there are companies that have done this fairly well. I mean, Wendy's comes to mind. Wendy's has an amazing Twitter channel, and they're a very sizable company, but they have given their social media writers on Twitter a lot of leeway to develop a brand personality, which in case of Wendy's is very snarky and very funny. But I commend those C-suite level folks at Wendy's, because they have given a really long leash to their social media people, and it has done amazing things for them. But that's also not without risk. But, like in anything in business, you have to risk in order to gain.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm in agreement with you 100%. Okay, I also want to actually, guys, if you are actually enjoying the conversation which I'm having with Philip, and the questions which I'm asking, if you may, and if you can, I would highly encourage you to share this space with a few of your friends, not a lot, just a few close ones whom you think would benefit from this conversation. That would really mean a lot to me. Okay, even if you're on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, or Twitter. So I want to actually move on to the next question which I have about advertainment is, how would you measure the return on investment? Okay, maybe the investment is not too high, but as a small business owner or business owners, how can we measure this? What methods do you think would apply?
Sure. I think that the standard methods for content marketing apply for ROI, which is view time, dwell time on video, watch time, number of subscribers, number of comments, number of shares, all those quantifiable metrics, which are, very palatable to marketing executives in terms of ROI. The other thing that, the thing that's harder to really judge is brand affinity and the sort of affinity that you're building with your viewers over time. And that's the harder thing, that's always been difficult in social media in order to quantify in terms of ROI. But I'd like to talk about, the people who are going to win in doing this, the people who are going to win in this sort of space are, number one, brands who use it. So that's if you're a larger brand, if you can get over yourself and give some slack to your social media people and not have them have to jump through a lot of hoops in order to actually put content out, brands who actually do that are going to have a better chance of winning. Brands that, utilize influencers, as I said before, and make sure that they're being really, really conscious about who they are partnering up with and making sure that pairing of the brand to the influencer is a really good and natural fit. I also think that brands that are have the ability to adapt to trends and leverage trends are also going to win. That's another advantage of short form content, is that you can move, adapt, work on a very short, kind of news cycle, so to speak, and react to cultural changes and cultural news very quickly. I think also that brands that foster true engagement, so who don't make it a one-way conversation, who actually have back and forth and listen to the feedback of their viewers, I think that those are the brands that are going to be able to really infiltrate the subcultures and the communities that make up social media. And so brands that are able to do that are able to kind of make friends with and become a natural fit with those social media subcultures and micro communities that form is also one of those capabilities that are really going to give brands a leg up. And I think also brands that have historically struggled with long form content and figuring out how to tell a long story about a brand in an authentic way, those brands are also going to benefit from the shorter form content, because it's really easy to tell a very quick story and just get the hell out of Dodge, right? It's a very quick hit. And then finally, I think that brands that are able to be authentic and really tell a story that is transparent and true and doesn't come off like you're shilling something are going to be the ones that win. And here's some of the challenges. I think some of the challenges that people have are that 55% of TikTok's 1 billion users uploaded content in the last month. Half of TikTok's 1 billion users uploaded their own content. So there's a tremendous dearth of short form content out there. And the impression time that brands have in that stream of that massive stream of content is really quick, right? So your impression time to make an impact and stop the thumb scroll is also getting tougher. So if you can do that and, make an impact very quickly to get that brand impression and to stop the thumb scroll for a second, then you're going to win. But that is one of those challenges that brands are really facing right now. I mean, there is a massive level of content overload. I'm sure that every single person, give me a thumbs up with your reaction symbol and the listeners. I mean, if you feel that you're experiencing content overload, because will people even remember you? And that's the good and the bad, right? If you screw up and you do something really horrible, people aren't going to remember it very long because the news cycle changes over. But they're also not going to remember the good brand impressions very long. So that's why volume will always win in this case. And so that's why brands have to figure out how to address certain demographics, how to address those micro subcultures, and really pay attention to their viewers' habits and feed the sort of content that's going to result in the algorithm smiling on them, essentially, because people are able to, through their viewing habits, curate their own feeds. So you have to figure out how you're going to fit into and feed into that algorithm. And those are just some of the challenges that I think their brands are going to be facing in this new kind of social commerce world.
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense to me. I want to actually let the audience know that, this is a live podcast. This conversation is being recorded, and you are welcome to actually raise your hand, come up on stage, and you're invited to actually ask questions directly to Philip and clarify about content marketing, the future of content marketing, advertainment in general, anything of that nature. I have two more questions, but I have invited a few people on Clubhouse to join the stage, even on Twitter. On LinkedIn, unfortunately, it does not give me the feature to send invites. You have to raise your hand to participate. So if you're interested, please raise your hand. I would be more than happy to bring you up so that we can clarify some of your doubts. So my next question is, in order for a business owner or a business to actually get into advertainment or creating content for advertainment, what would be some key requirements according to you, primary requirements they need?
Well, I kind of mentioned it in the last question, which is that I think that it's important that they get a social media team. Even if you're a small company, and I'm saying small, like under 100 million or under 50 million, having a team which is adept at social media, that has the ability to create content, and that you as a manager of those people can have a higher enough level of trust to trust their judgment to make decisions around what they're posting. That's one of the things that companies require, because social media moves so quickly and the trends change so quickly, the news cycles change so quickly, that you have to be able to develop content and pull the trigger without going through 15 levels of approvals over a week and a half. Those are the companies that are going to have to win, or going to be winning. So setting up at least a little bit of infrastructure for social media content is going to be important, because you have to move quickly and you have to have a level of trust and hire the best people that you can to develop that sort of content.
Absolutely. I appreciate you resharing that once again as to key requirements are. What I'd like to ask you, Philip, is that do you think advertainment would only apply to short form video content, or do you think there is a practical way how we may be able to get this idea across other kind of marketing which you do?
Yeah. Could you rephrase that question? I'm not sure I completely understand what you're asking.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to ask is, okay, advertainment, you said it's about, creating something interesting and exciting.
Mhm.
Okay, so that, people can consume it, they would be interested in sharing it, they feel very emotionally connected to it, stuff like that. So will it apply on, let's say, if somebody were to do email marketing, can we apply the same methodology on email marketing? Or if we were to do print media, can we apply the same logic on that? If it's not video, is there something which we can integrate on other kind of marketing as well, so to make it like more cohesive and to make it more unified?
Yeah, I think how you approach a particular marketing platform has to be platform specific. And I think that that's what's so interesting about this social commerce space and short form content in particular, is that it is comparatively a new platform and a new media and a new media essentially format, because I think that email marketing has its own specific needs and its own specific cadence. I think that just as television broadcast advertising has a certain level of expectation of production value, or radio has a certain level in order to break through when you're only working in audio. Every platform, I think, has its own requirements, and so I wouldn't say that the specific needs of short form media advertainment are really as applicable to other platforms. So the short answer is no. I don't
Yeah,
think that
I
so
agree.
many of these aspects of it really translate. And that's what makes it so interesting and such a challenge and opportunity for brands to figure out, because it is so new and because has its own requirements.
Oh, absolutely, Philip. I'm in agreement with you 100%. Yes, every platform would be different. It has its own key requirement, and you would want to tailor make content, specific to those requirements to for its effectiveness. So I appreciate you clarifying it. I had this question because I was under the impression, let's say you make a brochure, can we make it interesting and unique, and it doesn't have to always list all your products and services? Can we create something unique out of it? Kind of advertainment, but yeah, I hope that makes sense. That's where the question was inspired from.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we are actually around 40 minutes down to this interview. So I appreciate all the 28 listeners who are listening us on LinkedIn. I have a few listeners on Clubhouse and one listener who finally decided to join on Twitter. So guys, if you're interested in raising your hand and coming up and ask questions to Philip, feel free to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and ask a few more questions and we're going to go ahead with the interview. If nobody shows up, we will start with rapid fire and we will wrap things up. So, Philip, so my extended question to you is that who has been your biggest influence in your life?
My dad. My dad was a newspaperman, and later in life he was an English teacher. He was always a maverick, a muckraker, making trouble for the politicians of the world, and and he took no prisoners, and he had a level of curiosity and passion. He was an excellent writer. He loved people, and he loved publishing, and he loved teaching. And my life has been very much about leading and teaching, and so in many ways, I've kind of patterned my my life and professional career after his in a slightly different way. So I'd say definitely my dad.
That is so amazing to hear, Philip. I appreciate you sharing, about your dad and the thing which he did. And he's been such an inspiration that is really powerful. Thank you so much for that. I have Joseph, who has actually joined the stage on LinkedIn. So, welcome, Joseph, to the Brand Identity Design podcast. Do you have a question or would you like to contribute to this conversation? Joseph, you have to unmute. All right. So, we can't actually hear from Joseph. So maybe we can give him a few seconds. And while we are actually waiting, I see Christine, who decided to join the conversation. Christine, please flash your mic if you're available. Lovely. Lovely. Do you have a question? Would you like to contribute to this conversation? Yeah, we're not able to hear you, Christine.
Hello.
Yeah, lovely.
Can you hear me?
Yes, fantastic. Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can.
Sorry, I was trying to find a place to type. Okay. Hi. I am a small business owner, and I'm very excited to get to speak with the both of you. But my question is, being a small business owner, and when I say small, it's extremely small, and that's what I have intended to be. I've actually had to, unfortunately, scale back due to an unfortunate incident, an attack that I, was a victim of. I'm not able to work as much as I would like. I'm supposed to not be working or doing certain things. So I'm also the type of person that cannot sit and do nothing. So, but I want to be as efficient and as, obviously profitable as I can be at what I am able to do. I still have obviously my faculties and abilities that I worked so hard to gain during my 25-year career in my space. And one of the things that, and I have taken some classes of yours and whatnot that, taught how to optimize LinkedIn and to get more followers. And of course, my aim is to get more loyal followers, to get, somewhat similar to what my goals are in friendships. I don't have a zillion friends, but the friends that I have are good friends. So I aim to have the same in clients and customers. So what I would like to do is, you said when it comes to social media and this entertainment type of advertising, which I love, that is right up my alley. I'm looking to vlog and YouTube and all of that. I do not have a team. My team is whatever, whatever new CRM or, type of helpful thing might have a free 30-day option for me to take advantage of. That's my team. So it's basically me, social media, the website that I'm trying to, right now revamp to, show that I've pivoted into this new endeavor. A lot of it being, working via internet more so than face-to-face. What advice might you have for someone like me that is not looking to become a multimillionaire, but looking to become a niche boutique, but very successful in that I offer excellent customized customer service to a very, I don't want to say very luxe, but more of a high-end, high detailed customer service based business?
That's a really good question, Christine. And I'm sorry for the event that you're experiencing. And
oh, thank you.
But the thing I would say about small business, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, startups, small businesses now. That's really my focus in my own consultancy. And I counsel people a lot on how they should approach social media. The one piece of real advice I have for any small business is number one, don't try to be too many places at once, because it confuses your audience. They don't know where to find you. And it also splits your time and your energy across a range of platforms. So try to be as choiceful as you can about the single platform that you choose to dive into and go deep into it for 6 months to a year. And choosing that platform should be informed by your target avatar, your customer avatar. And I see that you're in the kind of bespoke events sort of space. And so that space is, there's a lot of people on Instagram in that space. There are a number of people who are lifestyle people on YouTube who are in that space. But in terms of being, a single person, all it takes from a business person standpoint is you and a phone, like you and a high quality phone, because you can start recording blog-like, real behind the scenes kind of short form content that will help people understand what it is that you do, who you are as a person in a very authentic way, for you to tell your story, for you to show a little bit about behind the scenes of how these things come together, and then also for the result, right? So you put on these wonderful bespoke events and they are just begging to be videotaped or photographed. And so I would suggest that I would probably lean towards Instagram because it has video capability now. And you're not going to be doing super, well-produced videos anyway, because you don't have a team to do that. So I would focus on kind of short form, informative, behind the scenes, sort of every aspect of your business sort of content. And the other thing I would just recommend is that if you have, a range of past customers, ask them, send them a direct message or an email or a phone call, for gosh sakes, and just say, hey, what kind of social media are you on? What do you look at day to day? Are you looking at LinkedIn? You're looking at Instagram? And just ask, 6 or a dozen of your customers where they are actually consuming their social media, and use that to inform your choice of a platform. The other thing to do is, and this is one of the things I counsel all my clients to do, is to really understand who your competition is in your space. So if you know who your competitors are in your space, dig into what they're doing, because where they are showing up is where some of your customers are, and you want to start stealing those eyeballs from them. And there's no shame in looking at the best practices of your competition and mirroring them if you're just starting to get started up and trying to figure out what sort of thing that you should be doing. Hope that helps.
It does. It helps a ton. Thank you so much. I'll have to email your people and see if maybe I can afford some of your services and learn more. I appreciate you.
Sure, just DM me here. My people is me, by the way.
Oh, well, fantastic. Even better.
I have a team that helps me put my content out, but for the most part, my consultancy is myself and whoever I pull in for various projects.
Perfect. I'm familiar with that. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, Christine, I apologize in between while Philip was actually answering, I muted you by mistake. I was just trying to avoid if there was any backfeed while we do the recording. I apologize for that. I didn't mean to cut you short, but I just want to make sure that Philip has answered all your questions. Do you have a follow-up question before we move on?
No, I believe he actually answered everything. The only thing being was just as far as competition goes, that is something that I'm currently working on, because my competition has changed since I have pivoted, and I have added products since I am virtual primarily now. But that's, again, something that, you're getting down to the nitty gritty of my business, and no one wants to hear about that. So I will hopefully touch base with him maybe about that, or someone else in that space of consultancy. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Christine. Do get in touch.
Yeah,
I will.
Absolutely. Please stay in touch, Christine, and please be on stage, because the rapid fire question round does involve the audience can also participate in it. So please continue to be on stage. I just want to just check if Joseph is available. Joseph, please unmute your mic if you're available. Okay, since I'm not actually getting a response from Joseph, we're going to move him to the listening lounge. And guys, anybody else who is interested in joining the conversation, please feel free to raise your hand up and I would be happy to bring you up. So let's continue, Philip. I just have a few other questions which I wanted to ask you before we start rapid fire. Could you, everyone, kind of wants to leave a legacy, right? We want something, to be remembered for. What is that one thing you want to be remembered for? Philip, are you there? I think you might be on mute.
Sorry, I clicked it, but it didn't take. I think that I want to be known for helping other creative professionals succeed in their careers. So I love helping people brand themselves and tell their stories and build businesses that fulfill their passion and their needs, and sharing everything that I've known and learned in my career with them so they can do that. So I think that if I had a legacy, it would be that I helped 100,000 people have better careers and lives.
Love this so much, Philip, and you are already educating a lot of people, because I would highly encourage you to look for Philip on Instagram and even on other platforms. He produces tons and tons of content which he freely shares with people, and it's there are carousels, there are through this podcast, a lot of other things which he does. Even I don't think he's interviewing right now, Philip, as per our last discussion, but you're producing solo shows. But there's tons and tons of content which you guys can consume and take advantage of. I wanted to say hi to Thomas. Thomas is actually Thomas is one of our frequent contributors and speaker on my show. So he's all the way from Australia, and he actually stays back. I don't think he sleeps also. It's just on Wednesday just to be a part of my show. But I know it's very early, 4:30 AEST. Thank you, Thomas. Please flash your mic if you're available.
I'm available, yeah. And I do sleep.
Oh, good.
I do sleep, Jason. Even though I appear, in the cyberspace in the middle of the night. But luckily for me, it's summer here, down under, and it's 4:59 a.m. and the sun rises in 18 minutes. Well, first light in 18 minutes. So I don't have long to wait, but busy day today, and I apologize for dialing in late. But look, yeah, really interested in what Philip does. I'm a ex-vendor relationship manager, so I know that sounds generic, but basically it manages IT outsource companies, kind of in Australia and around the world, particularly in India and in the Philippines, where IT companies save money by outsourcing, managed services. Obviously, the labor is cheaper in India and the Philippines. But I have kind of retired, but I've still got that title up because I haven't yet recreated myself. But hopefully when I finish doing all my other activities that I've been doing since I kind of retired, including listening to Jason and all his lovely guests, I'll hopefully recreate my persona, and yeah, be very interested in connecting with Philip. My middle name is Philip, so we must be already connected, but thank you for your contribution.
Thanks, Thomas. I appreciate it.
Lovely. So I wanted to welcome Maud. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, sir. Please flash your mic if you're available.
Hello there.
Yeah. How do you pronounce your name again?
It's Muad.
Muad. That's a lovely name, my
Yes,
friend.
never.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, man.
So, Muad, welcome to the Brand Identity Design Podcast. And we are having this conversation with Philip. Do you have a question? Would you like to contribute to this conversation?
Yes, please, yo. So I was following what Philip just said, and I was, let's say, I'm a big fan of Philip. To be honest, when I first started my career, I watched the first video that inspired me a lot when he's talking about design trends. I'm a visual artist and 3D artist for now. So Philip was my very first person who inspired me to start this. So to be honest, I'm a big fan. I want to thank him for such inspiration for me. That's the first thing. Second thing, I don't see like he's pushing new content to like designers as me, because as I said, he was publishing a couple of videos where he spoke about trends and design. He did like each design trend. I think 2020 and 2021. I don't think he did for 2022 or 2023. I'm just double checking if there is any like upcoming videos as that.
Muad, I did do 2022. And so, yes, and I will.
Yeah, I missed it.
If you DM me, I will send you the link. And I am actually working on 2023 right now. So 2023 should be out within just a couple weeks.
Yeah, I will be just waiting for that. So that's this was like an opportunity for me to speak directly to you and thank you, because again, I really appreciate what you did. You don't get it, but if you check my Instagram, you will see what I am at right now. I collabed with Adobe. I did like a huge things for me, and let's say you were there in the very beginning of me. So I really appreciate you.
Muad, thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. And
Thank you.
In social media, you would be surprised how sometimes little feedback you can get. So whenever I get feedback from people directly and sharing how I've helped them, that really means a lot to me. So I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Lovely.
thank you.
I'm so glad that your fans are showing up, Philip. I wanted to actually give you a shout out to Philip, because the first time I actually heard about you was on Ian's podcast. If you remember, Logo Geek, you spoke about can a logo cost around $250,000? Do you remember that?
Yes, yeah, I do.
It was such a lovely episode, and I was fairly new to the whole design space, and I found it very, very fascinating. That's how I came to know about you, and I started following you. So I appreciate that. I have Peter on stage. So Peter, welcome to the Brand Identity Design Podcast. Do you have a question, or would you like to contribute to this conversation?
Well, can you guys hear me?
Lovely. Yes, we can.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi to Philip for one thing, and say I've known Philip for several years now, and he started out as a mentor and has since become a friend. And this conversation you're having is wonderful, and I love the C acronym, the storytelling, entertaining, and engaging acronym. I'm going to definitely use that. And my comment is that one thing I've learned from Philip, and he's been instrumental in helping me pivot from a career that ended because of COVID into a successful freelance career, is that, there's a lot of things that you hear about techniques in successful entrepreneurship or business. And one thing I've learned from Philip, which is perhaps the most important, is that if we go at this business of being creative professionals with the priorities of not looking at customers as just customers, but by building relationships, solving problems, and just being kind, success is not that hard. So, Philip, thank you for everything you've done, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. And Peter, I know quite well. He's been one of my most dedicated viewers and listeners over the years. And he was also a member of my Brand Design Masters Guild mastermind group. Peter's an incredibly talented product photographer up in Maine. And if you have any product photography needs and are listening to this, you should definitely check out Peter's portfolio. One of the benefits of being a Brand Design Masters Guild member is that you get promotions from me on my podcast and any lives that I do. So, but Peter's a super talented guy, and I appreciate your kind words. Thanks.
Lovely. Peter, nice to have you on the stage, the virtual stage we have. Thank you so much for supporting Philip and being a part of this show. Please, you're welcome to be on stage, because we're going to start with rapid fire questions. So I have one common question which I'm going to ask everyone on stage. Okay. And rest of the questions go to Philip. So Philip, let's get to know you a little further. Okay. What is one of the biggest opportunity you have given up?
I gave up a job at Microsoft once, and it was right before I got a call from PepsiCo, but Microsoft offered me a position heading up some of their packaging group. And I was living in the Midwest at the time, and I didn't want to go west. I didn't want to go up where it was raining. And my wife really wanted to come back to the East Coast, and luckily that's when PepsiCo called and brought us back to the East Coast. But it was a big opportunity, and I turned my nose up at it.
But you did eventually have them as a client, right, in your career ahead?
I had them as a client before, actually. It was, yeah. So they knew me, and they called me up and said, "We want you to come on, help us with packaging." And I was like, I don't know. I knew Microsoft already.
Okay, that's lovely. Okay, next question. If you wrote a book about yourself, what would you title it?
This is a question for me.
Yeah.
I would probably call it like The Accidental Designer. Because I didn't actually go into my career wanting to be a designer, or actually even wanting to be a design or creative leader. The web of my career and the different opportunities that I've had have brought me to this place, which, I love and I'm so passionate about, and I'm so grateful for all the experiences I've had and where it's brought me. But it was definitely not on purpose. It was kind of an accident. And that's one of those things that I try to impress upon the creative professionals that are in my community, is that sometimes you just can't plan it out, that you just have to have an end kind of goal in mind, but then leverage the opportunities that come your way, because you never know where they're going to take you.
Oh, absolutely. It makes sense. I would highly encourage you to write that book, The Accidental Designer. I think it's going to be super cool, and it's going to give people a very, very unique perspective as from you. I think it's going to be super cool. Okay. Again, next question for you. Next question for you again. Okay. If you could choose one philosophy to guide you for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I think actually Peter Lewis could probably say this for me, but it's dare to suck. That's my motto. My motto is dare to suck.
Could you explain that to me?
Yeah, and everyone who's listening here who has been thinking about doing content but has not done any yet, generally the biggest fear that people have is that they are going to suck, that they are going to make a fool of themselves and very publicly, and they'll hang their head in shame, and everyone will think they're an idiot. And the thing is that everybody has to suck at the beginning. And my friend Roberto Blake, who's a big YouTuber, said that if you're not embarrassed at your first 50 videos, then you're doing something wrong. You waited too long. And I firmly believe that. It's like you can't become an expert at something overnight. And if you wait to be an expert before you start, then you've waited too long and you're missing the boat. So you got to get out there and just kind of be bad. I mean, I look back at my first 15 or 20 videos and I just cringe. The lighting's bad. I'm nervous. It's just like, it's not pretty. And so, but I got out there and I did it and I built it video after video. And I've been on YouTube now for 6.5 years. I've got 450 videos up there, and it just comes from daring to suck.
Absolutely. I love this motto. It makes a lot of sense because I kind of, it reflects some of my struggle too, Philip, because when I started my podcast, and guys, I would highly encourage you to look at my podcast, Brand Identity Design. Okay, look at the very first episode. There is about 2 to 3 minutes silence, and that continued on for many episodes ahead. I start the show, the recording is on, but I just don't have enough confidence just to start. Just nervous as heck, and I kept it exactly the same way. Even though I can go back and edit all of that, I kept it to keep it as a reflection that sometimes when you start, as you correctly said, you suck at it, and eventually as you progress, you become better. But you need to have the determination and you need to be consistent in doing it. That's how the goal should not be, I feel the goal should not be to reach perfectionism. I think the goal is to become excellence, right? To lead to that direction. That's what I feel. Would you agree with me, Philip? Or do you have another take?
No, I totally agree. And I think let me tell you a quick little story, because I think that, in particular, Thomas might be able to relate to this, which is that I had a 25 plus year career, big corporate, big agency, big business card, big titles, big salary. And when I went off on my own, I was learning everything from scratch. So I was learning social media from scratch. I was learning content development from scratch. And you have to try new things. And the hardest part for me was that I had this conception of my level of accomplishment, and it was very difficult to go back and be a beginner and have a chance of making a fool of myself. And that's really hard for mid-career people who are looking to redefine themselves, or looking to build a personal brand, looking to become more visible in the digital sphere, to build a brand for themselves. And it's very difficult for people to take the chance and feel like they might look less accomplished than they are. And so if everyone starts from zero when they start doing content, so just start. If you haven't started, just start.
Absolutely. Please start, try to do something, and I'm positive it's going to take you places. You just have to give it time. So thank you so much for sharing that. Just, I have one more question before we open up the room for everyone else to contribute. If you like to go viral on YouTube, which I'm positive maybe some of your videos did go viral, but if you had to do it again, what kind of content you'd like to go viral for?
It's funny. I have gone viral. And that's probably the video that Muad saw, which was my 2018 graphic design trends video, was picked up by Design Taxi, which is a giant digital company, and they put it on the front page of their website for a couple of days, and I got like 80,000 views or something like that in like a day, and it just blew me away. And then it went up to, in a period of 2 or 3 weeks, I had 1.2 million views of this video. It seriously went viral, and my email list absolutely exploded, and it was great. I have to say it was great. And I, got 80,000 new subscribers. So it wasn't just the views, it was like actual subscribers to my channel, which was awesome. But the one thing I would say is that while that little bump of subscribers and that little blip of 15 minutes of fame was fun, and it validated what I was doing, because I got thousands of really positive reviews of that video and comments on it. It was really great, but it's fleeting, and I've been chasing that dragon for years, and it's really not all that it's cracked up to be. That so many brands and so many people are like dying to go viral, and it's while it's nice, it shouldn't be the end goal. If I was to go viral again, I wish I would go viral for one of my more content-filled instructional videos. Like I did a live stream on how to upgrade your LinkedIn profile. And, I'd love to go viral for that, because something like that could radically change hundreds of thousands of people's lives if they went and did that stuff on LinkedIn with their profiles. So while it's great to inspire people with trends, which was fabulous, and I love doing that every year, if I was to go viral again, I wish it would be something where people could actually take it and really put it into action for their own lives.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Philip. That's such a lovely intention which you have there, Philip. Guys, if you're listening to this conversation, I actually want to support Philip in what he just mentioned. If you can DM me that specific link to that article or that video for the LinkedIn, I would be happy to put it on the show notes, and let's see if we can push it and make this viral so that more people can take advantage of it, Philip. All right. So I want to actually go ahead and open up the space of, which will be a common question for everyone. So tell us a moment when you felt uncontrollably happy. Okay, and I'll start with Philip, and then I'll go to Peter, Christine, and then Thomas. So go ahead, Philip.
Well, uncontrollably happy. Well, it has nothing to do with business or branding, but probably the highest level of elation that I've had in my life was when I was scuba diving in the Bahamas and on a shark feeding dive. And I love scuba diving. I've always been fascinated with sharks, and being on, 40 feet down, kneeling on the sand in the Bahamas and having 60 sharks schooling around you in a circle was absolutely thrilling. And that was my uncontrollably happy moment.
That's so lovely, Philip. It scared the hell out of me. but as long as it made you happy, nothing like it. Okay. That's really cool. Were those sharks really fed? Like, they were not hungry or anything, right?
No, I mean, it was a shark feeding dive. So what they do very quickly, they take a half of 55-gallon drum, they pack it full of fish, entrails and stuff, and they freeze it. And then they dangle it just above the surface of the sand, and sharks come in and feed off of it. And so while they are feeding off of this giant chumsicle, as they call it, as long as sharks have a food source that they can go for, you're just like another shark. So you're basically swimming around with them while they're going and rapidly attacking this frozen chumsicle and eating. So it's an incredibly thrilling experience, but you're not in danger because they've got something to eat other than you.
Lovely. That's really lovely. Chumsicles, that's a really funny thing. But, I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, let's actually go to Peter. So Peter, please unmute your mic. Would you like me to re-ask you the same question, or have you heard it?
Oh, I missed the question. Sorry, I'm
okay.
Trying to multitask. I'm doing a couple things at once.
No problem. Tell us a moment when you felt uncontrollably happy.
Oh my goodness. Well, the birth of my two kids, for one thing. So that's two moments. But geez.
If you like, I can circle back.
No, that's okay. When I live in the mountains of Maine, and when I'm not putting all my energy into trying to make my little freelance business to succeed, I spend a lot of time in the mountains trail running. And I tell you what, getting to the top of some bald peak in western Maine and looking out over nothing but wilderness, that my feet don't even touch the ground. I'm so happy when I do that. So unfortunately, being so cold this time of year, it's not going to happen that much till spring. But being away from the office and out in the wilderness, running up mountains, is just the best thing ever.
Lovely, wilderness. Who does not like mountains? Me too. Thank you, Peter, for that lovely share. I want to go to Christine. Christine, would you like me to re-ask you the question, or have you heard it?
Oh, no, I've been contemplating my answer since you asked Mr. VanDusen there. My father asked me this very same question once, and or actually the way he asked me was, Christine, do you think you've ever been happy in your life? And it was right after I got out of a behavioral health hospital. I'm also an advocate, by the way, for major depressive disorder and anxiety. So I do have to say that's something I work on all the time. The word happy and what it really means. So I'm not an unhappy person, I would say. But happiness to me is I look for something that keeps me content. Contentment is huge. I've always been somewhat, and I think a lot of people in this, room would feel possibly somewhat the same. People that are aiming for, as you said, not perfection, but excellence. We're actually looking for perfection. So you accomplish something and maybe it doesn't feel quite good enough. You want to do something better. So that's kind of had been, but I don't want to get philosophical. So I have 4 children myself, and of course, elated that they were born healthy. And I love them to no end. But I will say, when it comes to a feeling that is indescribable aside from having my children, and not to copy you, Peter, but I'm also a runner. Well, I was 4 marathon a year on average runner, distance, not speed. And I've never done a illegal drug in my life. The runner's high is real. And I will say that when the first time I felt that, I don't want to say anything inappropriate on this either, but it's better than anything I've ever felt in my life. It's like, you feel like you can run forever. You feel like you can fly. It really is a truly real feeling. And I would love to say that, like Peter, when he got to his end goal of accomplishing that huge feat he did, at one point I was given an opportunity to be flown to Arizona and run what was then the toughest road race known to man, and it's the Mount Lemmon Marathon. It's no longer the toughest, but I ran it in honor of a friend of mine who had just passed of lupus, Annie Louisa Alfonte, and she was 24 when she passed. I went and ran that marathon for her, in her honor. And it was a wonderful experience, although I did not feel the runner's high running 8,000 feet up, but I did finish it. I'm a 4.5 hour marathoner. I ran that marathon in 7.5 hours, and I did finish, and I didn't feel the runner's high, but I did feel happy, honestly happy, verifiably happy that I finished that race. And that I carried her with me all the way up in a picture that I had pinned to the back of my shirt, which weirdly fell off at the finish line, fell off of my shirt and was bloody and sweaty, but her picture was shining bright. I got the medal, and that was it. That was the moment that I felt happy.
That is super cool, Christine. I appreciate you giving us that backstory and helping us understand why running is something which you're closely associated to and why it brings happiness. So we have scuba diving for Philip, we have the wilderness for Peter, and we have running for Christine. I want to actually hear from Thomas. So Thomas, would you go ahead? I'm sure you may have heard my question.
Sure. Yeah, I've been listening. Look, it's not a scuba diving. It's not a running, and it's not a wilderness. But it relates. I think I mentioned previously, Jason, I'm a bit of a golf nut.
Yeah.
Not a great golfer. Not a great golfer, but a golfer that knows that perfection is not very easy to come by. But On the theme of the shark, the shark Norman is a golfer who I have met a few times. But the happiest is two things related to golf. The first thing is when I got my second hole-in-one in 2019, just before COVID. And the second happy moment was I have a particular obsession, I guess, about connecting with interesting people. I also have a bit of an obsession about rock and roll, and I also have an obsession about golf. So I combined all three of those obsessions, rock and roll, golf, and connecting with interesting people, and organised the game of golf with Alice Cooper, who is a rock and roller who is obsessed with golf. And he's got a well-known story that he replaced his addiction to alcohol with an addiction to golf. So when he was down under, which he comes every couple of years to Australia and New Zealand, 13 years ago, managed to negotiate a golf game at my club in Melbourne, and it was very enjoyable. He's a very funny bloke. He cracked me up on numerous occasions. He just said these really funny jokes, and one joke he said was so funny that a bit like Christine, I can't mention it on air, but I was very happy after that round, and obviously I went and to the concert, that evening, and went backstage, and just had a really happy time, and that's my story. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we have scuba diving, wilderness, running, golfing, rock and roll, and networking. So thank you so much, guys. Let's actually give Philip the opportunity to tell us a bit more about his business, what kind of new offers you have, events, promotions, speaking engagements. What would you like to speak on my show, Philip?
Sure. Thanks, Jason, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and chat with everybody today. And thanks to everyone for hanging out with us. It's been awesome. My website, philipvandusen.com, is kind of the hub for everything that I do. Most of my content is on YouTube, and that's under my name, Philip VanDusen. So like and subscribe, and turn on notifications, because I do go live. And if you have notifications on, you can get a heads up when I'm about to go live, and then come out, hang out there with me, which Peter does often, which is awesome. If you are interested in personal brand development, I have a free offer for you guys. You can download this. It's a tool that I developed called the Personal Brand Wheel. And what it is it's a tool that makes it very easy to kind of visualize where you are progressing and where you need work on developing your personal brand. And so if you go to philipvandusen.com/PBW, the letters PBW for Personal Brand Wheel, you can download that tool. And if there's any aspiring creative professionals here who would like to learn a bit more about brand strategy, I offer an on-demand video course called Brand Strategy 101. And that's available at philipvandusen.com/BS101. And that's it. Thanks, Jason.
Absolutely. So PBW and BS101. Philip, if you don't mind sending me the links, I would have it on the show notes so that people can take advantage of it. If you're following the event page, once the show gets uploaded, I normally go ahead and post all the links so that you can backtrack and see some of those stuff. So I think we have 3 things which we want to do for Philip. The first thing is to make his LinkedIn content video viral. The second is, promote the PBW and BS101. BS101 is for the brand strategy, and the PBW is the personal brand wheel. Okay, so all these links would be available shortly, guys. Please reach out to Philip. He's a true professional. He really knows what he's trying to do, and he has tons and tons of experience to support it. I would also highly encourage you to look at some of his work on his portfolio, which is also listed on his website. I stumbled upon the most recent project which he did, and I've also highlighted this to Philip, the one for the Alex Theater. It's a really, really cool project. I like the typography and his styling, his layout. I highly encourage you to just have a look. And in fact, if you think his expertise makes sense, feel free to hire him and take advantage of his knowledge. So on that note, I want to quickly give you a heads up on next week's show. So my show is broadcasted, just in case if you're new, live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And next week, we would be speaking about giving yourself grace as an entrepreneur with Rebecca Nunes. Okay, she has an award-winning agency not only in Mexico but also in California, and Rebecca will speak on why as entrepreneurs you need to give yourself grace, because you live in a degree of success and failures, and sometimes most of the plans which you make may not really go according to plan. You would lose clients, incur financial losses, downsize your business, even lay off employees, and all those bad things can happen. And all of this is okay, and it's okay to let go of the regret anchor and take one day at a time. So Rebecca will actually share some of her personal experiences on how she was able to deal with this. So I would highly encourage you to participate next week. You should be able to find this link to this event on my bio on the featured profile section, or else if you are interested in just getting notified, just DM me. I'll be happy to send you the link. The second thing which I want to let you know is that I have an exclusive guest on January the 4th of 2023. I'm going to be interviewing the former CEO of Hasbro Interactive, and he's going to be speaking about the business of games. I've been trying to reach out to him for a really long time, and he finally agreed to be on my show. So consistency and persistence really help, guys. If you want to chase something, if you want to achieve something, be consistent, be humble, and try again and again. At some point it's gonna work out. So that's pretty much it. Do you have any final remarks or any one takeaway you want people to get from this conversation today, Philip?
Yeah, I would say that you own you. That everyone, it's very easy to start to identify with who your employer is and have that become part of your personal identity. But when it comes right down to it, employers come and go, and you own you. So start investing in yourself and your own independence. And if you need help doing that, I do professional coaching. So reach out to me and we'll get it together for you.
Absolutely. On that note, I wanted to thank each and everyone who has joined the stage and also listening to us. Take care of yourself. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're in the world. Thank you.